Now, here's what's going on. Israel attacked without provocation a flotilla of unarmed ships carrying humanitarian supplies to Gaza, flying the flags of numerous countries who support the humanitarian effort, including Turkey, Ireland, the United States, Greece, all these different ships. Now, here's the bottom line. In international waters, Israel has no legal right to issue orders to anybody's ships. In international waters, Israel's military can issue orders to Israeli-flagged ships, but not to anybody else. Certainly, Israel does not have a legal right to board these ships in international waters. Israel is claiming that the law is on their side, but Israel is smoking opium on this one. When you set foot on a foreign-flagged ship, you are entering their sovereign territory. Maritime law says the ship is part of the nation whose flag it flies. It's like foreign embassies. It's part of their sovereign territory, and you may not enter without permission. If you do, it is an act of war. It is an invasion. Israel had no legal right to issue orders to the flotilla or to board and seize the ships. These are acts of war. If you want to be generous with Israel, they are acts of piracy, but they are acts of war.
And in fact, I believe that Turkey has recalled their ambassador.
Oh, the Turks are so angry.
Yeah.
There have been massive protests all over Turkey. Israel is fortunate to still have an embassy in Turkey, although as of the last report, it is minus all the glass in its windows. The Turks are very angry. They are a proud, dynamic people, and the bottom line is it was on the Turkish ship that things really started to fall apart. Now, what happens? What seemed to have happened? Because last night we were dealing with phone calls from people. We have two friends who are friends of people on the flotilla. They still don't know if they're alive or dead, and we're trying to collect that information. But I think what happened was that Israel, in their supreme arrogance, figured that if they just showed up with enough of their American taxpayer-funded weapons and enough of their American taxpayer-funded helicopters and enough of their American taxpayer-funded body armor and waved their American taxpayer-funded guns full of American taxpayer-funded bullets at the peace flotilla, the humanitarian aid flotilla, that the flotilla would simply do as they're told and sail into Ashdod, where the cargo would be seized, and then some token amount of it delivered to Gaza in front of the press camera so that Israel could say, see, we're being nice to the Palestinians. Okay? And the problem is that the Turkish crew and passengers on that ship tried to defend their ship against what looked to them and was a hijacking.
Absolutely.
Israel was in the wrong. They were rappelling soldiers down onto the decks with machine guns. They have no legal right to be there, and the people on the Turkish ship fought back, and they tried to defend themselves, and that's when things really went crazy. Israel is trying to play blame the victim.
That is something that they do on a very consistent basis. However, because how open and how blatant this act was, the world cannot this time turn a blind eye toward it. Palestinians understand this kind of behavior from the Israelis. They deal with it all the time. But to have it in the face of the world and this blatant, this is a very unique situation, and unfortunately, it appears that a very hubristic, paranoid consensus in the Israeli government thought that this was going to be a really great idea, and what Israel is going to have to deal with now is the outcome of these unintended consequences, which could be very, very grave.